Hey guys, it's Kalyn. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a bit of a controversial video. I'm going to be going over the books that I hate. And let's be honest, we all love watching these types of videos. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. The first book on this list is Matched by Ali Condi. I'm constantly hating on this book because I like to. In this dystopian society, we follow this girl named Cassia, I believe. And when you're 16, you go to this match ceremony. It's pretty much just as it sounds. So our main girl is matched to her best friend Xander, but then all of a sudden pops up another face, someone she doesn't know completely. So here, instead of having one person, there are two different guys that she is matched with, and that's not supposed to happen. And the guy that she doesn't know, she ends up meeting him, and his name is Kai, and he's the perfect boy who writes poems, and he's just down to earth. But this book just bored me to tears. One of the activities that Cassia and Kai both sign up for, or it's assigned for them, I don't remember, is hiking. And so they're constantly going on hikes where Kai's writing his poems and Cassia is just daydreaming about Kai, and I feel like that's half the book. And then the other part that I really didn't understand is that in this society they're not allowed to write, but they're required to do certain jobs like computer programming, which means you have to know how to read. So it just doesn't make sense that you can read but not write. I don't know, but I just remember being so like, what? After I finished reading this book, like, is that it? Is that really what I wasted my time on? The next book on my list is actually a novella. It's called Cinderella by Colleen Hoover. This is the companion novella to her book Hopeless. I read Hopeless a long time ago. I remember really enjoying it, but who's to say that if I reread it now, if I'd still feel the same way? Cinderella just pissed me off to no end. I can't believe that such a small little novella angered me the way that it did. This novella starts out and is literally based on these two teens. They're in high school, guy and girl. They're total strangers. They don't know each other, and they end up in this janitor's closet. It's pitch black. They can't see who each other are, and in like 2 seconds they end up having sex right then and there. And afterwards they still don't bother to exchange names. And so the guy decides to nickname this girl Cinderella. Kill me. Right from the get-go, this relationship I feel is so problematic, and it can't even be a guilty pleasure for me, because when I was reading it, I just found it so unsettling. It's obviously marketed as a romantic book, so the fact that people are supposed to look at this and find it romantic was very disturbing. That's what makes me wonder if I would actually enjoy Hopeless if I went back and read it. Colleen Hoover's books have been criticized, and people say that her stories romanticize very problematic relationships. Would I agree with that statement when it comes to Cinderella? Absolutely. I don't remember too much about Hopeless to say anything. I'm not going to pass judgment on her other books since I haven't read them. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't read Cinderella, but I feel that people, especially young girls, should be very cautious when going into this type of book, because that type of relationship is not healthy. That's not something that people should strive for, and it angered me so much. I mean, I could have done without it. I feel like I'm working myself up again, but I just found it so baffling just how that relationship was romanticized. I don't get it. I didn't like it. Yeah, no, And the next book I want to talk about is Blood Dreams by Kay Hooper. In this, we follow a group of psychics who solve mysteries, but it wasn't for me at all. I feel like the fact that they're sidekicks is spoon-fed to you over and over and over, and it just gets really annoying. And then when we're in the serial killer's perspective, it's too graphic for my liking. I feel that if I read any more murder mysteries, I need to read one that's a little bit more distant and doesn't get as sadistic as this one, because it's probably very realistic the way the serial killer is thinking, but I couldn't do it. It's so much different than when you watch a show. It's very interesting. Books can really leave an image in your mind more so than any TV show or movie. I don't think I'll be reading any more of Kay Hooper's books if they tend to be like that. It just, it wasn't for me, and this is definitely a book that I hated. And then I want to talk about The Lux by Anna Garbertson. This one pissed me off because every single character in this is completely shallow, especially the main character. And what annoyed me is that the main character like tries to convince herself and tries to convey to the readers that she really is a good person and she's not all about money and all about status, but in reality she is. One of the scenes in the very beginning of the book, she's with her group of friends, and then there's also this old family friend that always tags along with her, and her family friend, she doesn't have as much money, not as high in the status quo, and her clothes kind of show that. And in our main character's mind, she's just kind of embarrassed to be around this girl in front of her other friends. And then in the next minute, she's trying to talk about how she wants more to life than all of this fluffy and all this stuff, which doesn't make sense, and it just annoyed me because she kept going back and forth and very indecisive. This book is literally like Gossip Girl back in 1899, but doesn't do it as well. Not even close. And the last book I want to talk about is one that I've been bitter about for years, and it's such a shame because I love the other two books in the trilogy, and that is Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. For this one, I'm going to go into spoilers because it's the ending that, actually no, the overall whole book, but especially the ending that just really did it for me. First off, District 13 was nothing that I thought it would be. Honestly, I was so excited to find this other district that everyone thought was burnt to the ground. But no, it was completely boring, and they didn't do anything besides the whole Star Squad thing, which I thought was a complete waste of time. The only exciting part was when they got PETA back, I feel like, and how he was going through like that PTSD. I thought that was done well. What started to make me really mad is when Katniss and her Star Squad decides to infiltrate the Capitol themselves, even though they're supposed to be off kind of away from the battlefield. And I was thinking, okay, that's really exciting. Katniss is going to get in, she's going to kill President Snow, they're going to get some stuff done. Does that happen? No. Here she gets knocked out, and then she wakes up, and it turns out President Coin and the other part of the army comes in and captures President Snow themselves. So it just felt like Katniss was there for no reason, and that she played no part, and so I just kept thinking, what was the point? They didn't really do anything besides maybe be a distraction. I don't know. Now, I did enjoy how she killed President Coin. I thought that was well done, but then the way that President Snow died just by choking on his own blood, it was like, really? That's it? I was actually more upset about Finnick's death and the fact that they didn't really mention it. Yeah, way more upset about his death than I was Prim's. And that epilogue was the straw that broke the camel's back. This whole time I was waiting for Katniss to choose between PETA and Gale, you know, just make a choice, girl. Who do you want to be with? In the end, she kind of just ends up with PETA because he's there. And she said something about her being fired, him being a dandelion, but it didn't really convince me that she would have chosen him if Gale were there. And the fact that she has kids when she clearly didn't want them. In the epilogue, it says something like, oh, I didn't want kids, but PETA really wanted them. I'm just like, that's not the Katniss I read about. She's just so distraught now, it seems like. She doesn't seem like she's a strong person, and I get that the effects of war are trying to be portrayed in this book, but it's not what I wanted out of it, and it didn't satisfy me at all. I actually read this trilogy through a couple times, and the first time I read this, I was very confused. I didn't have an appetite for probably a few days. I just kind of sat there in my bed just thinking about this book over and over and over. And then I decided to reread the trilogy, but I told myself, okay, I'm going to reread up through Catching Fire. I'm not going to read Mockingjay. But then I got through Catching Fire, and I thought, you know, maybe I'll enjoy this book now. Maybe I'll be able to see some more details, and maybe there's more potential in this book than I was initially giving it. So I reread it, and I hated it even more. And then I went through the same whole cycle again, but I felt like it was worse because I found more things that I hated about it than I did previously. So it's probably safe to say that I am not gonna put myself through this book again, because this one affected me the most out of any book that I read. So, I mean, good job for Suzanne Collins for that, for getting that emotion out of me, but no, most unsatisfying book I've read so far. Alright guys, so those are all the books that I hated. Let me know down in the comments if you agree with me or disagree with me. I love to see some different perspectives. But yeah, thanks for watching. Until next time.